Many more of us than it may at first glance seem walk around with the feeling and live with the feeling that there is something wrong with me. What is the deal with that feeling and what is going on in that connection? So, as it concerns in general, the idea that there can be something wrong with me as a human being, as a person, or a useful, analogy could be that of the body. The body is supposed to be adjusted to the exigencies, meaning the demands of physical life, right? Of physical reality. For example, uh, the need to walk and to eat and to digest food and to sleep and such. And when something is wrong with the body, that means that there is some maladjustment, misadjustment between what is needed from the body so as to live life and the way that the body is. So, for example, if I have a cold or a flu or indigestion, that suggests that, or those are symptoms such that are called that, which indicate that there's something going on as it concerns that maladjustment between the body and objective demands concerning it. So, just so with what can be called the self. The self seems to be something that develops over time, right, in connection with an initial endowment, along with environment, along with our choices and our thought. And it is certainly possible that the self that we have that has developed is maladjusted to uh, the requirements that would need be met. Would we be able to live a happy, satisfying human life, right? That is not intrinsically at odds with others, that is not self sabotaging, and such. What is the source of such dysfunction? That's a broad question, and the three aforementioned elements would likely be cited. It could be that uh, there was something off with my initial endowment. For example, some people appear innately unable to empathize with others, understand other people's emotions, and such. It could be that my environment was not rich enough, was not fertile enough for me to fully sprout. An extreme example, a feral child raised in the woods, right, in the forest away from humans, a Mowgli, would not be able to become an individual in the intellectual, emotional, moral capacities that he or she could be had he or she been raised normally in normal circumstances in society. So, environment is certainly a necessary, if not sufficient, factor for healthy development. Further, it could be that we have misused and or abused our prerogative, it could be said, or freedom to try to think truthfully, right? To try to understand ourselves and our situation in a truthful way, to make choices that are not excessively self-serving, right? That are not excessively deceitful. So some or another combination of these factors, perhaps some other things that we're not aware of, but probably those things can amount to a self that is problematic or worse, right? A self that has some serious issues. What are these serious issues? Well, the way that they're experienced and or described often touch upon uh, the relations that one has with other people, right? Disorders of relations, relational disorders. I cannot really feel at one with anybody. I cannot feel any kind of closeness with family, with people that could be my friends if I were able to feel close with them. I cannot really consider any interests above that of my immediate impulses and appetite. I cannot respond to any kind of higher or, again, richer environment than that of the immediate, right? Where's the food? Where's the drink? And so forth. Right? There's some kind of deficiency. Something is off. Something I don't get. Something is missing, whatever the case might be. And yet, interestingly enough, being Homo sapiens and not, aka human beings, and not other kinds of animals, we seem to have at least a shade of self consciousness, meaning consciousness of oneself, awareness of oneself. And consequently, we can be in the interesting position of being aware, or at least dimly or vaguely aware, of this self of ours that is inadequate. Right? On some level, in some way, I feel that there is something off with me. With my body, it can be obvious enough. I can look in the mirror, I can go to a doctor, I can get blood works. But this self that is in question is invisible. Right? It can't be seen, it can't be touched. It's certainly there, but it's not available to make itself known to the senses. So it's a feeling that we have, it's an intuition that we have that I think there's something wrong with me. So usually how we deal with this feeling is we flee from it, which is natural and understandable. If I think that there's something wrong with me physically and I don't have some kind of other motive for following up, for example, fear concerning health, right, or vanity, or whatever it might be, I might just run from any knowledge that there's any kinds of issues with my anatomy. I don't want to know my blood works. Right? I don't want to know what's wrong with my shoulder, with my knees, with my neck. Just don't tell me, which sometimes actually could be smart, right? We have something else to focus on. I don't have time right now to think about it. Maybe it could be smart. Not to say it is always, but possibly. So it makes sense that if we suspect that there's something off with ourselves, that we too will look to flee from that sense. We will look to escape from it and ignore it. It's uncomfortable. It's scary. It's painful. It's embarrassing. It's an offense to our pride, to our vanity, to our desired sense of superiority. I don't want to think there's anything wrong with me. I don't want to think that I'm lower than other people. So I'm simply going to ignore this intuition. And I will look to rationalize, meaning argue away any arguments, or excuse me, any incidents, we might say, anything that could point to that issue that I feel vaguely is the case with me. And consequently, many further issues from that ensue. Just like we ignore an acute issue with our body. I don't want to know that I've been, it would be spared shot or something. That's just, don't tell me, whatever. Right? Maybe for the moment I can ignore it, but it's going to be an issue soon. I need to mind it. I need to get medical help. Just so, if I ignore some such issue with myself, it won't go away. It won't go away, and things will only get worse. How will they get worse? Well, depending on the degree of the problem with myself, various things can ensue. On a lower level, it could just be that I never really attain to human life. Right? I never really attained to any kind of deep fulfillment or happiness or anything like that. I live life on a very superficial level, since I know, that if I were to dive a little bit deeper, I would encounter those problems. Right? And consequently, I stay on the very surface. And maybe here again, my problems aren't that bad, but all the same, they're enough that I'm motivated to stay on that very surface. The problems are worse. I can engage in extreme projection and demonization, seeing my issues in someone or other, right? And leading potentially in connection with other mental health issues, the violence, the chaos, the abuse, to all kinds of things. Right? I can self-destruct. I can become a drug addict, an alcohol addict, trying to run away from myself, a hedonist, trying to chase pleasure, going into various spirals of self-destruction, of self-sabotage, of self-flaying. Again, I can not do any of that, but I can simply never confront the deeper issues of life. And I stay busy, right? There's always something up, right? It's always now, it's always today. There's always some kind of business on the horizon, or at least some kind of distraction, right? Well, now I have to go to work, and then I have some stuff at work, and then after I got to relax, and I got to catch up on my shows, and then it's the weekend. I have to have a little fun, and then I got to do it all over again. So again, I don't engage with myself, and I continue to live like that, and that's no fun either. So one way or another, there's going to be problems. Whether it's the problem of again living death of never really making anything of life because I'm fleeing from myself, or acute, obvious issues where a person uh, does evidently sociopathic things and such. There's going to be issues, no doubt. And I'm going to damage others in the process, and I'm going to remain damaged, and it's no good. So, what is the evident thing to do here? It would be to lean into that intuition that there is something wrong with oneself. It would be to confront oneself and to stop running away from oneself. Just like if I feel that maybe I've been shot, maybe be spared. It happens. Right? Maybe there's something really off with me. I'm bleeding out or something. Take a look. Look down and find out whether or not that is the case. And if that's the case, take action. Don't run away from it. So just so here, I suspect that there's something wrong with me. I suspect that inside I'm dead. I'm the walking dead. I suspect that I am alienated and cut off from any and all others. I suspect that I'm unable to love anyone. I suspect that I am someone such that others could correctly call a narcissist, and so forth. Don't flee from those feelings. Right? Use the gift of self consciousness to be conscious of that self, problematic as it may be. And from there, it's not, oh, and that's a quick fix. That's it. I already know myself. I know I'm the worst. And it's it. No. The idea would be to develop humility, right? To develop self awareness of my flawed self, of my inadequate self. And then, with that basis of humility, with that basis of self confrontation, to hopefully eventually cooperate with reality, which is always trying to straighten me out, and be straightened out to some or another extent. Right? We see that, for example, if we were to act out on our antisocial urges, people would correct us. Right? I want to start screaming, in a store when somebody else is in front of me in line. People will probably correct me. I act out at work, get fired. I have money issues. I have um, alcohol issues, drug issues, all these things. Right? If I don't justify them, if I don't rationalize them, if I don't flee from them, if I don't always point the finger outward and say that it's only because my parents treated me like this, and it's only because of society and so forth and so on, life will eventually straighten me out. My problems will eventually straighten me out. I'll hit rock bottom, and then I can go up and such. Right? But that requires humility. That requires self-confrontation, and a lack of that self-deceit, a lack of that constant marathon-like running away or sprinting away, perhaps, from oneself. So that would be an idea that we can consider. If I have a dim, vague feeling that something is missing inside, there's something off with me, right? Then, instead of refusing to think about it, instead of running away from it as fast as I can, instead of distracting myself with all kinds of distractions, be it professional, personal distractions, other distractions, substance abuse, or even use sometimes, whatever the case may be, confront it, sit with myself, quote unquote, lean into that inadequacy, try to see it to the best of my ability for what it is. Right? Do some detective work if I need to, ask other people, see my reactions, all kinds of things, and then try to humble myself. Maybe I am a quote unquote narcissist. Maybe I am a quote unquote sociopath. Maybe I do have some really deep issues that I can't just say, oh, it's my parents or it's trauma or something. There's some really deeply human issues. Maybe I simply have yet to attain to any kind of uh, really deeper inner life, right? Which is in all likelihood the case. Whatever the case might be, confront that. Try to see it for what it is, humble myself, and then hopefully, eventually, in cooperation with reality, with life, I'll be straightened out and be on a good path. Thank you for listening.